Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. My name is Rabenschild and I have to turn on the info tab and get the gravity ranges. So I have basically finished all the settings for the gravity assisted docking. I still need a name for that. But I also placed the basically the centering fields, and these fields are set up. They're set up the same as this one. I'm getting a bit of lag here, but again, we can't do anything about that. I hope that in October some things change. So what I have here is again neutral areas in between the fields that align with the mass blocks that are in here. People talked a lot about the mass blocks and all that stuff. And again, I think that how I have set it up right now, that's some good settings. So we have a good way to center the ship completely. We have good ways to keep the ship where it is. The big problem that we have, and the mass blocks and the gravity units can't do a whole lot about that. The ship is pretty heavy, so let me test something. In the game there was the error that you couldn't access. I still can't do that. Access the that must be an error or a bug or something like that, because I can just grab it, use the control, and then I can control the ship. So I will disconnect the ship from the whole docking assembly I have here. Oh, that was not right. And I will bring it out of the range of the gravity here, so that we can take a look at how it works at the moment. So if we come in with the ship, we can basically park it out there, roughly center it. That's the good thing now. And if we want to use the dock, we just go take the Empress again, then turn on, and I can do that basically by if I could use the remote control with the remote control tab, then everything would be fine, because then I could set up the docking mass. Their docking mass is basically all the mass blocks that I use for the ship docking. And now I need to go in there again. This is just inconvenient. This is completely inconvenient. And then use this here. Okay, what I have now is a ship that I can basically bring into the range of all the gravity blocks here. I will have to steer the ship up to a certain point basically on its own, but you can already see that it gets centered. What I need to do is turn off the dampeners. The ship is just too heavy and has too much thrust to just go in there when the thrusters are turned on. So I will have to at least use a bit of caution when I'm docking. Bring the ship into the range of the gravity generators, then I can turn the dampeners on for a bit. You see that there is still a bit of movement down in the left, and when I turn it off, the ship starts to move on its own. So the ship will be pulled by these generators up there. The ship pulls it in. People had a bit of problems with the ship maybe not coming in straight. I think it comes in pretty straight. There was concerns about the center of mass of the ships being somewhere there, so in the middle of the ship, but somewhere there, and then it may be rotating a bit. That could happen, but the mass blocks are at the same positions and they get pulled in and straighten out in the end anyways. So the ship now takes up a bit of speed. It gets slowed down by this gravity field. That's a thing I might test again, because I'm thinking about if I could make this gravity field a bit stronger, because then the ship would stop a lot earlier. Now you can see the ship basically comes into the gravity field and then gets pushed out again. But the pistons are already on the move. So it could happen that the ship gets caught by the pistons and then gets stuck, gets pushed out. At the moment, it's you can see now they pull back. I need to maybe set up the sensor here a bit better. The ship now, how's that called? Modulates? I don't know. It basically shifts back and forth between the two gravity fields, and that has to do with inertia. So it's not only the space in between is enough. If the ship goes to a halt, everything's fine. But at the moment, the ship, when it uses the full range of the pulling gravity field, it basically goes too fast into the field that slows it down, gets pushed back, gets too much speed, and then gets thrown back and forth. And that's a bit problematic. Again, I can't make this thing too fast, otherwise this ship is not, will not be slowed down enough to, again, get stopped by this one. So, but now everything should be fine. It gets slowed down at one point. So that's the only thing that we have with this system. It takes a while to work. So, and the ship, again, it goes back and forth, gets slower and slower, and at one point it just stops. I will test if adding another set of gravity generators here will change that. It could be that if I just slow it down hard enough here, then it just stops, gets... The problem is, again, it then might just get also pushed hard back. And then it will not change anything, I believe, if I think about it. So it's maybe a bit easier to just let it do its thing, then control it with the inertia dampeners. But the positioning of the ship is a lot easier. A lot easier. You can see that they get into position, the pistons, and the ship is practically where it needs to be when it comes to being centered here. By the way, these gravity fields are on its maximum size, so I had to put where is it? I had to put a mass block somewhere here, and there's another one closer to the middle, and then another one on the other side, but this thing never reaches. What we will do in the future is again design at one point a system that works for all the ships. So maybe really use, don't know, something that works in the middle of a ship where you could have a standardized system. Not sure if that ever will be possible, but yeah, it works out. So here By the way, we still can see that it, even if something messes up the 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 ship on its way, then the center blocks just pull it back into the space it needs to be in. So I will now do the thing and just grab it again, put on the inertia dampeners to slow it down, and then we will let it do the last part basically from a standing position. So inertia dampeners on, the ship gets slowed down now in the fields. The thrusters here are just strong enough to hold the thing in position. It's a weird thing. The centering seems to not work because the thrusters in the front and in the back are just too strong. I don't get it. Maybe it's also an inertia thing that it can't accelerate the thing, and weird. But we can just turn that on and off, let it do its thing, and then just bring it back. It would be easier now if I could just sit in the ship. Maybe I should do that, sit in there, do all the work from the pilot seat. But it's much easier this way than to use the... Come on, let me sit down. To use any other means, I have the feeling. People said, hey, that's pretty innovative. I'm not sure if other people didn't play around with this system. I can only assume that other people would have done it too, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. This whole gravity thing again. The people that invented the gravity drives must have also worked with stuff like that. It would completely baffle me if the people didn't do that. The good thing is that now I can just position it a bit with a few thruster hits, and now at the next, the ship should get pulled into place by the connectors. Otherwise, I need to do something about the connector range. You can see that I removed one connector in the middle. So connectors enabled. It should have now fixed the ship basically. So I removed one connector in the middle, the one up top. I don't need it anymore to keep the ship from rolling. Here you can see that it's fixed. And is it fixed here too? It is fixed here too. So that was all I had to do basically. Do a bit of correcting, press the button, done. The gravity assisted docking is at the moment a lot better than all the autopilot things we had there. Maybe we could try to do something together. People will comment on that, I'm pretty sure, and I'm happy to get basically the last input to this whole problem now. We need to do something else. People seem to be already done with it. The next thing I basically want to do is find a way how to set it up that if the ship is docked, the gravity fields turn off. Because, yeah, right now, let's say it that way, woo, having weird gravity fields here is not a thing I want to have, especially when I get out of the ship. But you can see that for some, I could make it so that they don't work in these in the tunnels here. Maybe I can set something like that up that would also work. But on the other hand, people already mentioned that after I did it too, that it would be neat to have at one point a sensor that maybe detects a subgrid. So now the whole ship here is a subgrid. We know that. Let me get rid of the gravity info. Now we know that the whole thing here is a subgrid. We could tell a sensor to let us do that. We could tell a sensor to detect a subgrid, and if it, yeah, that's the idea. Maybe come on, pressing the wrong buttons, all the wrong buttons. That's the idea. I wasn't prepared to do that today, but let us just get into that info. And now we just need the sensor fields. I want this one. Sean had. I don't need the back extend to be high, top extend, bottom, right, left. I just need the front extend to be 20. Is 20 good? I don't know how far it reaches into the ship, but what we can do is we will give it a bit more, because it doesn't really matter. We don't need it to be completely precise. We don't detect players, we detect subgrids. Detect owner, detect friendly, everything's fine. And now, what do we set up? We set up the whole gravity thing. These gravity generators are the one from the... Okay, these are the one from the gravity drives. Push right, top right, bottom right. Push left, top left, bottom left, center left. That must be all, I would say. Yes. Save that as gravity dock. Save that. And then we just use the setup action and take the groups. Gravity dock. Gravity dock is when it detects a subgrid, it needs to turn off. When it gravity dock, when it doesn't detect a subgrid, it turns on. Okay, we need the info again. No, we need the... Come on. Ah, this is frustrating. I am constantly getting... Okay, so... Let us test it. Come on. Gimme. Gimme. I don't need to do a lot. I need to just turn it on and off. That should already work. Connectors disabled. Connectors enabled. Yes. See, the gravity turned off because now this ship is a subgrid. And I don't need timers for that because it waits for a subgrid. So as long as I'm not docked to the station, the whole thing is turned on. And then as soon as I undock, it turns on again. That's the cool thing. Man, it's I thought I had to do stuff with maybe a timer to say, okay, after 2 minutes, turn that all off. No, I just have to let it search for a subgrid. This subgrid thing kind of surprises me. That's neat. The subgrid thing I never took a look at. So, maybe the people are right that it gets misaligned sometimes. It's okay. It's docked. I think it's also docked in the front, or oh no, it isn't. We will still work on that, but now we have an automatic. Ooh, it's just one connector is connected. Maybe I need to set up the pistons differently. I had to work with the pistons too to get it to absolutely correctly, not correctly align, but the middle one I removed so because it bumped against it, and then I had the back or the front basically wiggling back and forth. It's all this stuff again. But again, now we have a pretty easy way to dock the whole ship, and I will just okay. Turns on. We turn off the. I've turned off the dampness. Let me turn off the dampness, and maybe. Did I turn off the docking mess? That's also a thing I could do. Now, and it's that's fantastic. Let us do. No, the docking mess I need to control by hand. That's a thing I definitely need to control by hand because I could do the same with the docking mass blocks. Basically, go and say as soon as you detect this subgrid here, turn it off. But I don't want to have it permanently turned on. So we need to. We could let it detect a station, then turn it on, and when it. Turn it off when there is no station. Turn it off when there is no. That's a question. That's. Okay, we already found out that there is a. So, this thing we had that when we first brought in the pistons. We had the. Okay, we had the problem that the sensor wouldn't be able to detect the ship once it was docked anymore, because then we needed to set it to a subgrid. So if we have two sensors, we let it detect. Does that work? Does that work is the question. Let me set something up, and I will come back to you when I've done that. I have two sensors here now. The upper sensor detects the station. It has a bit of a longer range, 33 meters. It doesn't really matter at the moment. The bottom one detects subgrids, so it has a bit of a shorter range. I want it so that when this sensor detects a subgrid, it turns off the mass blocks that are here for basically for the docking. And if it doesn't detect a subgrid, it turns them on. What I also want is that when this upper one detects a station, it turns the mass blocks on, And when it doesn't detect a station, it turns them off. So that has to do now. I have these different lengths here because if this one turns off the mass blocks or turns on the mass blocks when it detects or turns on the mass blocks when it doesn't detect subgrid, then then it's okay as long as we are close to the station. But when we go away from the station at one point, I want them to be turned off. That's why this detector has the longer range. It also has the longer range because, again, it needs to detect the station as soon as we reach, basically. We can even make that longer. I would even say that we should make it longer because we need to detect the station when we approach it. Then we need to have mass blocks that are turned on. Okay, let me get into the pilot seat and we test if it reacts the right way. That's one thing that we need to see. Okay, I will grab the group, the docking mass group. I will put it here on the hotbar so I can see how it reacts. I will turn off the... Okay, I've turned off the connectors now. The ship is now free. The mass blocks are still on. So if I now go away from the station, I turn on the dampeners just for me so I don't let the ship fly away too far. Now, let's see. Okay, the mass blocks are now turned off. So now we are not held by the mass blocks in the gravity docking area anymore. Okay, good thing. Now let us approach the station again. Maybe I need to make the... Yeah, I need to make the sensor range even longer for the mass blocks. When do they turn on? They should turn on at a certain point somewhere here, I would say. When I'm close to... Yeah, I need to make that longer. Now they are on. Now I should be able to turn off the dampeners, maneuver the whole ship a bit more into place. Speed, let it slow down a bit more. Everything's turned on, or the ship should be able to move now with the gravity assist. It does that, so you can see that it speeds up, but pretty slow. Again, that's completely okay for me. The good thing with this gravity dock is I can fly it up to a certain point, so I could just fly up to here, then turn that off. It just assists the docking. It doesn't need to do that completely on its own. That would be just too much for the game to handle, I think. But you can see that at the moment everything is turned on. The mass blocks are on. The gravity is on. Ship gets hopefully grabbed by the connectors. I will, by the way, make the connectors have a bit more power. I'm pushing a bit because now the ship basically rammed the pistons, and that's not a good thing to have. Again, this is all Still work in progress. Now, at the moment, I'm not doing anything. Does it slow down? It slows down. I would like to be able to see all the things. Ship is locked. Graph is turned off. Mass block is turned off. That's how I want it. That's definitely how I want it. The sensors can just stay on. I don't much care for the sensors, but the gravity, again, I would like to be able to get out of the ship on foot and not have to worry about getting thrown through weird gravity fields here. That's perfect. I could even get rid of these ones. They don't do a lot at the moment, so they just look weird. The ones in the middle do a good job right now because, hey, that's how that works out. Yes, I will get rid of these modules here. Perfect. That's how I wanted it to be. That's how I wanted it to be. Good. People, I think that's all for today. That's all for gravity, for gravity docking. In the next time, in the next few days, we will definitely have to do other stuff than worry about the gravity dock, unless someone else comes. And by the way, the sensors still work too. That's neat. So unless someone comes up and says, "Hey, there's things you can do, more things you can do," then I'm pretty happy with this. I don't have to do a lot while docking. I can just correct when correcting is needed. I will go to 70. It doesn't really matter. Let there be some mass blocks turned on. That's completely okay. What I also could do is, don't know, turn off the gravity in the ship. Is the gravity in the ship? Yeah, it could make problems while docking, could throw it off a bit, but I don't care too much. The ship is pretty straight in the dock. Here, take a look at the sensors. They point to the right places. The pistons point to the right places. Everything's fine. Good people, that's all for today. I have enough of gravity now, I think. It works how I want it to work. And people will, or you people will hopefully have some more things to say about that. If something comes up that's really, really interesting, or that can make everything 3 times better, then I definitely will work on that again. But otherwise, that's pretty good, or I would say so. Good people, thanks for watching. Take a look at my description. There's all the links to my Twitter, to Patreon, to the collection with all the mods. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. See ya, guys.